Welcome to our latest episode of the Lebanese Physicians Podcast. And today, because of Roy Abdo, we're doing it actually in a podcast room, which is the first time we do this, and it's an interesting way of doing it. Today, Roy Abdo actually is the CEO and founder of Digital Revamp. And today we will be discussing how to, especially for physicians, how to revamp your image online, because a lot of us tend to see patients, and we gain expertise in a lot of procedures, but we are not good at selling ourselves online. Roy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Khalil. Thank you for having me, doctor.
No, don't call me doctor, man. You're making me look old now.
No, tell me.
So today, Roy, because I think most physicians spend years building expertise, but almost no time building visibility. And in today's world, if you're not visible, you're not influential, right? I mean, you know that, right? And today we're breaking down how doctors can use LinkedIn AI to build authority, grow their audience, and open doors they didn't know existed in the past. But first, before we start, Roy, can you tell us a bit about you and your company and how you founded it?
Thanks for having me on the podcast. I heard it's been getting some good traction online, so congrats on launching it. Let me tell you about my journey. My journey started in communication. I've been in this field for about a decade and a half. My background was in consulting, media consulting, then television and media. And before that, my studies were in business. I started helping television go on digital. It was called Voice of America or Middle East Broadcasting Networks. It was the early days of TV. I graduated and I got a job in that type of role. And my goal was to establish the digital presence of the organization. It started as a regular work in terms of establishing offices, then soon realized with the whole rise of Instagram. X was the early days of X, the early days of Google, the early days of Facebook. So I helped translate the analog content to digital. That's when I realized the importance of storytelling and content. And my little background on why I believe in storytelling so much, I'll tell it to you in like 30 seconds. I grew up in Lebanon. Obviously, I'm Lebanese. I went to do a study in leadership program in Athens. I landed in Crete, actually, in Greece. I landed in Athens. I took a boat to Crete. Have you been to Crete?
I've been to Athens and the islands, but not to Crete itself.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I walk in, and the program director goes, Roy, I hope your family's okay. I'm like, why? She goes, the war. I'm like, what war? 2006 war. I was the last plane to leave Lebanon in 2006.
Oh my God, that's interesting.
So I couldn't go back home, and the challenge is that I had to figure out a way how to pay for my school or graduate or do something with it. So from 3 weeks in Greece for a leadership program, I ended up spending 2 months and a half. And the program that I was doing got me a scholarship to go to school in Missouri. I packed my stuff. I got on a flight. I landed in Missouri. I don't know anybody in Missouri. I'm walking out of the airport, and I see a sign, Welcome Roy. I'm like, who knows me in Missouri? It turns out people from the school knew my story and went to pick me up from the airport without even knowing me.
Nice.
That's when I fell in love with the U.S. So I did a semester there, and I decided to stay in the U.S. and graduate from the U.S. to get a work visa, to get a green card. The challenge is I can't get loans, I can't get scholarship. What can I do to pay for my undergrad? In 2007, I had this idea, how can I reach the most amount of people in the least amount of time? So I did a blog with my story, put a PayPal account, and then started a fundraising campaign. And within a month and a half, I was able to raise $35,000.
Oh my God.
That paid off my undergrad, and that got me thinking, everybody's online. Stories are what move people. People move with emotions. You can know all the facts and figures. I mean, you're a doctor, you know it. You can tell somebody smoking bad. 8 out of 10 people who smoke are dying.
Right.
But unless you hit a core belief system, people don't change their behavior. And from that journey, I started the media job and the TV. Then after that, I went to doing consulting for Gallup Consulting, then a year with Booz Allen, then another year with the World Bank, and then I started the company. That the niche that I found with Digital Revamp was helping people use their story to help other people online. So think for perspective is our specialty is helping companies and organizations figure out how to use their narrative, their story, their content to build something different than the other people. So this way you can get the customers, you can help the world in there.
Yeah, so and how long has it been since you founded Digital Revamp?
Now it's about 12 years.
Okay.
The early days where we had only U.S. presence, then we established Lebanon, Dubai, and now Canada. Nice.
So you've been expanding to multiple countries at this point, and now it looks like you are expanding into the realm of like doctors.
That's true. Yeah, we have a couple of medical facilities, with a couple of doctors, because I really believe in today's world, Dr. Khalil, you have to be a media channel before you become a subject matter expert.
Right.
And that's, I think, a gap that I'm seeing in the market a lot, that people think, yeah, I'm a really good doctor. Okay, great. But if you go to 2 doctors, let's take a scenario. You walk into the room, there's 2 doctors in the room. One is a really good doctor, but he cannot communicate. And one is an okay doctor, but can explain everything clearly to you.
Right.
So which one you're going to feel comfortable with naturally without knowing their background, right? Because your level of skills is determined by your level of communications. You're perceived as good as you communicate. And I think that is true across all industries.
Right, exactly. Communication is extremely important. And as you said, storytelling is extremely important too. And so why are most physicians, I mean, we see it now more often that some physicians are becoming more and more visible online these days, like be it on Instagram. There's stories of physicians in Lebanon and the US who have become visible on a lot of the social media apps. But most physicians are still invisible online despite their high expertise. Why do you think that is the case?
I think it's a fear of a couple of things. A fear of not knowing how to navigate this. And there's also this whole imposter syndrome. I see in the industry a lot of people are afraid that, oh, who am I to talk about this? But they don't realize there's people who are less qualified than you talking about the same subject you are being known for.
Right.
And the other thing is time, I believe. A lot of physicians think it takes a lot of time, but in reality, if you have a content system I describe versus a content, a lot of people think of content creation, I have to set this, do the work, do the time. But it could be a system of an ongoing storytelling and keeping people involved. So I really believe it comes down to, people's internal state of mind, the time and effort it takes to build something, but also not knowing where to start. It could be also another something in there.
Right, exactly, because a lot of physicians are they don't know very well how to start online.
Yeah.
In that case, and I can tell you, a lot of patients these days, they come to me, let's say, and they say, we've looked you up online. So patients tend to look their physicians up online before they come to see them. They want to look at your grades, your communication skills, and maybe what you've posted online too at the same time. So what are physicians missing most about personal branding?
I think that at a baseline, every physician out there, my recommendation to every listener of this podcast is own your own media, which by that I mean make sure you have your own domain, anywhere that you have a place people can leave you a review or reputation or a blog or a bio on on a hospital's website or a bio on a practice you practice in. Make sure you have that you own your own narrative. What you have been, where you have done, your specialties, your expertise, the kind of work you've done, and also the relationship with the patients. A lot of doctors forget that now every patient is a media channel.
Right.
So if you right now treat a patient and you are not nice to them, know that there's a larger repercussion than just that one conversation you had with them.
Right.
So they can go simply write a review on Google, they can write a review on ZocDoc, on any platform that they have a review on, and that's going to be a stigma that's scary for you for life.
Right.
And that kind of the way I think about it is a lot of, the game is happening in front of our eyes, and a lot of people are just not starting with the baseline of remember that every person is a media channel, so your interactions are all recorded in one way or another, because I can reframe a conversation and put it back online. And if somebody said something bad about you online, the typical thing people do is just kind of ignore it. You know what? Start building your positive reputation every day. And I think that's where you're gonna have to start with something.
Right, start with your branding. And why, do you think, what's the best channel to start with? Would it be LinkedIn? Would it be Instagram? Would it be
It's gonna come
Facebook,
down. It's gonna come down to what you want out of this. So think of it in your case, for example. Do you want patients? Do you want recognition among the industry? Do you want thought leadership around becoming known in something? So I'm a big believer of on LinkedIn, because that brings a lot of thought leadership in the industry, which is the #1 trusted social media platform. And also on X, you could be known for certain things about the industry, the updates, right? Or Instagram, if you want to be the educational, direct-to-consumer kind of stuff, because think where those target audiences are spending their time. If you want to be known for patients, you want to be where patients are. Patients are spending a lot of time on Facebook, and a lot of people undermine Facebook. It has the largest demographic of baby boomers spending a lot of time. Think about our parents. They're spending a lot of time on Facebook, and they're still heavy on it, on TikTok too. And then Instagram also is a huge. But thinking from a level is, where are you in your journey? Are you planning to start your own practice at some point? Do you want to get a lot of speaking engagement at another point? Building those assets, so at any moment somebody look you up, either they're going to find your website, find your publications, find your YouTube channel, as simple as YouTube channel. Like in your case, you have a podcast. Now if I look you up, I know who you are. It's not anymore a name on a website and I don't know where you're working. I can click in, who's Dr. Khalil? Oh, he's seeing this, he has a podcast, he's talking about this. That elevates you among anyone else who's doing this, doing the same job that you're doing.
Right, because people then see where you are, or
People
exactly.
are always going to be buying from people.
Right.
The difference is, there was no people behind a review. Now you can just click and see the doctor. You Google them. The average person, take a guess how many times looked up. An average person, how many times people look you up a day?
Let's say 10 times.
At least if you're nobody, if you it's not nobody, if you don't have like a presence online, it's like 2 to 3 times a day. So, but imagine you're a doctor. How many patients you saw today, for example?
Yeah, exactly. So if you see like 10 patients in clinic, let's say.
So if on average, let's take one of them looked you up every day, that's like 5 during one week work day.
Right.
And that person, what did they see? What did they know? And think of those who are, next week, you have how many appointments waiting for you?
Right, exactly.
50, 20?
Yeah.
Or there's somebody considering. They might be thinking about something. So building your reputation is an ongoing life journey, and it's your legacy. And for doctors, I think it's the most important thing because you are the job. It's not like in our case we have a company and there's one person bad in the company and good person in the company.
Right.
You're the industry kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And that's why that was my next question to you was, like, what makes physician branding different from because you've branded for CEOs, for entrepreneurs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What makes physician branding different from that?
I think it's the most underutilized asset physicians have and they're not using, because a physician builds their own reputation regardless where they're practicing. So you could be today in a hospital, tomorrow in the clinic, after tomorrow in a different country. People will follow that expertise and that audience. So what's different about you is when we work with executives, that executive has a tenure, let's say 5-10 years in that organization, and he's going to move on to a different organization maybe. But my job is to make them, within that tenure, become the spokesperson of the industry. We've done it across over 20 to 30 executives where we made them public profile. Now they're getting invited to speak about the topics of their associations or expertise. They have a large following on LinkedIn and such. It's much more rewarding for a physician because that physician's specialty is going to be with them for life, or with them for life, or with her for life. And a lot of people undervalue that. How many times you've met doctors who are 60 or 70-year-olds, they're still practicing.
Right.
Imagine they built one video a year. They have 15, 20, 30 videos right now about their work and their interaction. So that's what the difference. It's a legacy thing.
Right. So you build your legacy and it stays with you because when people look it up online, they can still see what you posted like 10 years ago, for example, and especially if it made an impact at that point in time.
Yeah, and I think what's different about you, the physician industry, and building their brands is you're in an industry where it's evolving a lot and learning is part of your day-to-day routine. I know so many physicians we work with, they're in this briefing or publishing a paper or attending something or getting briefed by a provider on some new tactic and stuff. You could become the broadcaster of those and bringing the knowledge to the average user on what it's like to be working with this. Here's a new tactic on this. Here's a new gel for joints. A lot of this stuff you're getting exposed to. I don't have the time and expertise and effort as a user to look at it.
Right.
Okay, if you tell me right now, what's the injection between the bones called, whatever that gel, I don't know what it's called, but you know what it's called. Explain me what it's going to do,
Right, exactly. And for example, let's say I'm a pulmonologist, like I do procedures for lung cancer and stuff like that. Like, what should I be posting about?
So think from a perspective is, a lot of people think if you're posting on how to do something or how to avoid something, they lose their jobs or lose the whole thing, people coming to them. But the way I look at it is, think of the information and the frequently asked questions when people come to your clinic. When people come to your clinic, they ask you, how can I prevent this? What could be done about this? What is impacting that? How can I avoid something like this? So think of that repertoire of questions and turn every single one of them piece of content. But here's the common catch that people make. What is, let's say you said pulmonologist.
Yeah.
Tell me a case that's common from smoking.
Yeah, for example, a common thing I do, not only smoking, like a common thing I do is I'm thinking about it, I'm talking to you right now, is somebody comes in with a lung mass and I want to diagnose them with lung cancer, so I have to perform a procedure called a bronchoscopy or a robotic bronchoscopy to biopsy the lung mass. And a lot of times the patients don't know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So that's called the curse of knowledge.
Right.
So the worst mistake you could, listen, posting content, you're going to win. But if you just post content about that pulmonoscopy, whatever that word is, the average user doesn't know it. So now you're posting it for other doctors to know that you do that kind of thing. But if you want to post for patients, you have to know what patients are looking for. Here's what's going on with your lungs. You might be having, an inflammatory lungs or something. You have to speak a language that they speak in the content. So don't lead with what is pulmonoscopy. Is that the word?
Bronchoscopy.
Bronchoscopy. See,
good job, man. Good try. Good try.
It's not what's a bronchoscopy. It's here's what happens when your lungs are like this, and here's what we need to do. Then educate me through the process. Is that making sense?
Exactly. So this is why we need to do this, and this is what this could be, and then maybe I can educate people like through the process of what the procedure is in the first place.
And why do people get that call? And what causes that?
Yes, smoking.
Smoking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So a good hook of a video would be, here's what happens when you're smoking and you don't know it. I'm like, okay, now I want to know. Or the reasons why your lungs are feeling this way because of smoking. Let me tell you what's happening. And here's the procedure if you don't do something about it.
Right.
And you might believe smoking doesn't kill you. Out of 10 people I see, here's what's going on, and here's why they're getting it. Here's the procedures, how ugly it is. You can prevent it.
Right.
So that brings you more closer to what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. Right?
Because you can start with the preventative measures, then the symptoms, and
Yeah.
potentially what needs to be done to get the diagnosis.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
case. Great. And so what are like the 3 content pillars every physician should have?
I think for me, the content pillar is thinking first on why you're doing what you're doing, the belief system, then how you're doing what you're doing and what you're doing about it. The why is your belief system. Every single physician that I've met from the past couple of years I've been doing my work has a story on why they get into that specialty or their field. They have a belief system. What's your story, by the way? Why you decided on that specialty?
Yeah, do you want me to tell you now?
Yeah.
Man, you're putting me on the spot. Yeah, so basically I decided on it because I was a medical student. I used to like to take care of sick patients in the intensive care unit, and this specialty involves like the intensive care unit. So I decided on this specialty. But now I've pivoted where I don't do ICU anymore, and slowly with time I think things changed, and now I'm more interested in procedures for lung cancer. So it's like
What is it about procedure that you love?
what I like about them is just seeing the patients, getting to the diagnosis, and being able to help patients afterwards in terms of discussing their cases and sending them to surgeons or cancer doctors or something like that.
At what point in your life or career you felt this is a calling that you want to do? Like you're really good at this, you love this part?
Probably about like more than 10 years ago.
See, so there's a story. There's some pivot moment where you're like, you know what? I love doing this part. I love helping patients move something, right? Same thing for me. Everybody has that story, right? So, and I think for doctors, the more human you are in your story to bring it to life, the more people connect with you. Because it's a very bad stigma online, like, oh, he's just a doctor, they're out there for money. But if you can connect me with your story on why you did it, your cousin, your family, you're related, whatever that one patient that touched you and moved you, that brings you closer to the audience. Then the second pillar is how you're doing. How you're doing it, how you're getting good at this, the learning you're doing, the intellectual property you're collecting, the subject matter expertise you're building, the robotic, the AI. Here's the how you're doing it, and what you're doing is actually the procedures, meeting the patient, the travel. Walk me through those stories.
Right, exactly.
So that's like the why, how, what.
Exactly.
It's a famous framework by Simon Sinek. And the common thing is you have to always remember to speak in a language that an audience understands. And the common things we see is people fall in love with their trait, with their job, with their practice, and they forget that the average user, that's not what they're looking for.
Right. Yeah, I see a lot of doctors do that. Like I've done a lot of podcasts sometimes with doctors. Some of them are good at like talking in a manner or layman language.
Yeah.
And others are more like they start talking like in doctor language.
Yeah, I mean, people think
people don't understand it. Actually.
People think it's they elevating their status, but in reality, I think the best message is the one that goes the furthest.
Right.
And your job every day is to get your message. Your influence will increase is how clear you are in your communication.
Right.
And the clearer communication gets in by understanding what that audience know and where they're trying to go, and that message you give them takes them further in their life. Because there's a really famous framework we use called story brand. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's every single company think of themselves as the hero in the story of the client or the patient. But in reality, companies who are successful, they're the guide in that patient's life. So you're not the hero. The doctor is not the hero when I go to you. You want to be the guide to give me the best life that I can live. And the common mistake people think is, I'm a doctor and to talk about this. It's not about you. It's about how you're enabling somebody. You're the guide in their life. So, and if every doctor switched their lens from it's about them versus about who I'm enabling to, and I'm the guide, here's what I need to guide, here's how I can guide you, here's the preventative measure you can take, here's what you could do, that shifts the whole narrative in someone's mind.
Right. Yeah, and this is what you just told me now is that we practice it or a lot of us practice on a regular basis where the patient is the final decision maker.
Yeah.
You have to tell them, give them all the options, and the patient will make a decision. Do I need to go for surgery? Do I need to go for chemotherapy? Or do I just want to like be comfortable and live with my family? I don't want to be treated with anything.
It's a tough call in your work.
Yeah, exactly. And So now talking about like sounding robotic, I think we cannot do a podcast without talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
And so how can busy physicians like realistically use AI without sounding like robotic?
See, I think probably you're using AI in your own medical work, I'm guessing, right?
am,
At,
yes.
at the hospital or where you're practicing.
yeah.
You already have AI tools for doctors for diagnosis.
Right. For diagnosis and for writing notes. Too.
Okay, so that expedited the work. Now think about it, you can also leverage that AI to build your own content strategy and content system. What I mean by content system is think of documenting the journey versus creating content. Like for example, right now you can post a little video. It's like, hey, I just finished this podcast, post it on LinkedIn, X, Y, and Z, and then move on with it. You don't have to sit down and think 10 times what I'm about to post. So the way I look at it is the number one advice that I give when I give those presentations is when you want to build your AI agents to help you with content creation, make sure you're feeding them some of your own language, your own narrative, and don't just go to AI say, help give me a post on X, Y, and Z. I would say spend some time educating that AI, because from the data we know that the best people who are using AI are the best managers. It's not the technical people. Why? Because a manager takes time to educate that person, to understand the context, to give them the objective, and that's what AI needs for you to become a good content creator. So your content that's coming out of AI is not robotic. So enough time on the context, and then the one sentence I always make sure people use: treat this piece of content for a first-time audience, and my target audiences are patients who doesn't know the language of the medicine. So this way your narrative becomes more clear for a first-time audience.
Right.
There's a common mistake people like. There's something called marketing funnel. There's unaware audience, aware audience, and considering. Think about right now, people who don't know you, they'll never buy from you. So they have to become aware of you. Once they're aware of you, they're searching somewhere to build more validation to go to you or somebody else. So the way I look at it, your content needs to speak for a first-time audience or an aware audience. The first-time audience, you're trying to get them because of you connect with their expertise, their pain point, their struggle, their fear, their anticipation. That's what the language needs to be about. And your aware audience needs to understand that you're the expertise in something by showcasing me how you're doing something. So those are the content pillars that would feed into your own AI agent from Anthropic, Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity to get that type of content.
Right, because one thing I learned actually with AI is it tends to, the more you ask it questions, the more it actually starts knowing you, and the more it knows what your thoughts are and builds towards what you're thinking.
And think of like when you're building your own AI, give the AI the audience. Is your audience other doctors? Is your audience the patients? Is your audience to get a great job, in a hospital or something?
Right. Which AI agent would you recommend using? Don't answer me. I'm just
no. I recommend Claude. I love Claude and ChatGPT, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's also a Grok. I think it's a good one, but a lot of people don't utilize it as much and don't take it as seriously.
Right.
Which one's your favorite?
I mean, I'm using more ChatGPT at this point, but I've heard a lot about Claude, and I haven't used it yet.
I mean, ChatGPT is a recent update. They upped the game, so they have a lot more content, more features connected to it.
They have upped the game, but they're still slightly behind, I think, in terms of but they'll catch up.
It's still like the way I look at it. No matter what AI you use, it's going to get you 50 or 60% closer.
Right.
If you believe AI is going to get 90%, it's going to, and you haven't done the work, it's not going to get there.
So in AI, like you have a clinical thought, right? You want to put it as a post. You like go to ChatGPT or Claude and say, I'm going to put a post. Like what workflow do you recommend? You just mentioned something about.
So I always think of you could have a great piece of content, but there's one thing if you miss out called the hook.
Yeah.
The first 3 liners.
Yeah.
When I say about the hook, think about back in the old days when you used to go to the grocery store. You walk into the magazine aisle. Do you know they spend so much time on writing that headline? That headline is the big number one thing that people would see to either open the newspaper or not.
Right.
Now it's called a hook, which is a one-liner that you write when you write a post. Then once you write that hook, that post you're making, if you make it like a bulk of text, that's too much for me to digest. So you need to kind of space it out if you're talking about LinkedIn. If you're on Instagram, make sure you're understanding those audiences, what's the good hook for them, and it's a video format. So for me to give you a recommendation on the structure of content, it needs to be platform specific, because the best practices for TikTok are different than Instagram, are different than LinkedIn, are different than YouTube.
Right.
For example, on YouTube Shorts is on the rise now. A lot of people are watching quickly, right? But you have to think of what is a good hook for it. If I was a doctor, my content strategy would be as follow. Take long form content, educational, put them on YouTube. take some clips from them, use them for Instagram, and take some educational pieces of them in terms of text and write them on LinkedIn. But each one of them has to have the right hook by platform. The hook on LinkedIn is obviously the text, that one line. And people have to click read more, so this way it signals the algorithm that you're worthy to serve to other people. Because take a guess, what is the number one thing the algorithm look for in terms of content? What's important for the algorithm, so this way it serves it to more people?
So some of the words that you have, the hashtags?
Time spent on post. So when the algorithm is looking at your post, if I spent a lot of time on it, that means it's worthy. That means the algorithm will serve it to more people.
It moves it more to more people.
Exactly.
Nice.
So make sure your content have me enough things to chew on, so the algorithm deemed it as worthy and then sends it to more people through the algorithm network.
Got it. So let's say you post a YouTube video, but then you post a YouTube short video.
Yeah.
And how do you make your YouTube video be watched by more people?
So the YouTube video, the number one on YouTube are two things: the titles of the videos and the cover. And your covers has to be really appealing, and it has to hit on some of the health, wealth, relationships. Those are the three pillars in every piece of hook you have to discuss on. Like in your case, you're talking about health, and then obviously preventative health, aspirational health, the fear of health. And here's a catch on this: people, whenever you have a piece of content, a person will take something more seriously because they might lose something versus gain something. So if you tell me right now, if you don't do this, you lose 5 years out of your life, I'm going to take action.
Right.
But if you tell me, hey, if you do this, you might gain a couple of years extra, maybe. So there's a lot more decision in people's emotion when they feel they're about to lose something.
Got it. Yeah, exactly. If you're feeling you're going to lose something, then you have more decisions like you want to go through.
Take
exactly.
on.
Exactly. And so we talked about it a bit, but what type of posts perform best for physicians? And you're going to tell me maybe it depends on the social media app, but is it case-based? Is it opinion? Is it like education threads?
I think of it this way: it's going to be depending on what are you trying to achieve in a way. So the hardest thing for you all is going to be, okay, do I talk to other doctors? Do I showcase my expertise in depth, and I do the surgeries on Instagram and show people? Like I scrolled for past those, myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for content that's preventative about teeth, for example. Or in your case, I would say be specific on each piece of content might perform really well, but for that niche audience. Because let's say right now, if your target audience is to get a good role in a hospital, what you want to showcase, if they look you up, they see that you have long procedures, how you've worked on them, before and after, showcase to me the expertise, and I'm learning who you are in a way. But in reality, if you're trying to get more patients, those patients will not sit down watch an hour surgery on how you did somebody's nose.
Right.
So thinking from a perspective is, do you want fame? Do you want industry recognition? Do you want both? Okay, if you want both, you have to have two streams of content because your patients are not the same as industry recognition.
Right.
So think of a lot of plastic surgeons do this very well because they're direct kind of consumer, I call them, they direct to patient. And they show the before and after. It's very easy. It's very tangible. In your case, what are you going to show? A long before and after?
Right.
It might get difficult.
It's harder.
Yeah. So in your case, the more lens, I would say top funnel if you want to be known by audiences, because this way you could help those people to get the preventative measure, what could be done differently. And there's a lot of wide range of expertise you can talk about in your niche. Because you can talk about the diet that impacts the thing, the type of workout you can impact this, or the type of clothes or the outfits. The world has a lot of connections, even how mentally you can be impacted by something. So it's always health, wealth, relationship. And in health, think of the frequently asked questions or the challenge people are trying to face, because there's people always trying to get better at something, or there's a concept at the American Psychological Association that we work with. They call it the optimal human. We're always trying to become better in today's world. Longevity is the big thing right now, and I think probably you know it.
Yeah, and you can see it now. I mean, people in the past used to smoke or whatever. Now the trend is you go to Solid Core, to Orange Theory, to these are the places that are selling right now, and not
people are
drinking or
less.
smoking.
People are drinking less. Yeah.
Right. People want to live. Exactly. And so basically what you're saying is don't go posting randomly, but post for a goal and maybe for a niche audience that you're trying to get to.
And be platform specific. So for example, if you're on Instagram, understand that people are there to be entertained.
Yeah.
They're not there to watch long form surgery stuff.
Right.
So they'll be entertained and educated.
Right.
Okay, entertain me, educate me about health. or even entertainment. It can be about wealth. How you can prevent your medical bills on something.
Right.
Or even
right.
you're trying to connect with loved ones. Here's how you stay there for them by being healthy.
Yeah.
It's always one of those pillars: health,
Right.
wealth, relationship.
Yeah. I can think about when you think about wealth. I was thinking about one which is actually it was in Facebook. It's called Passive Income Ducks, and like somebody started, one of the doctors started it, and it became big because it's more like discussions about how to like create passive income measures other than like patient care and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of doctors are interested.
I mean, in your
So
case,
it's
think of a program you could create, a community you could establish. There's, those who are trying to get somewhere in terms of health and stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's one of our companies that I'm advising. It's called Duplicate Me. It's pretty much they send you a kit, you give them blood, and they mimic your mirror with AI to see what preventative measures you can be taking to avoid 6 to 8 type of cancers, for example,
Nice.
just from your blood. And they use AI to simulate on what could happen to you. So every 6 months to a year, you send them blood samples, and they can do those like assessments for you.
For you, exactly. So let's say I'm starting from zero. I'm a doctor. I'm starting from zero today. What should I do in the first 30 days?
I think if you're starting from
myself.
zero, number one is look up your name on Google and on ChatGPT and on any AI tool, and say, find me more information about this doctor, about me. Where am I ranking? What's good? What's not? So understand what's your current landscape. And then number two is start owning your own channel. So understand your bio has to be consistent. Have a good bio for yourself. Has good photos for yourself. If you're starting from zero, you're in a hospital. Make sure you get them to update your photos and bio and things. Establish your own channel, because as I said, you're a doctor. Your name is going to be with you for life. So make sure you have youtube.com/yourname, instagram.com/doctor and your name, and you don't have to post. The fact that you're indexing those, registering those, is going to help the algorithm form an identity about you. Because let's break it down. If you go on ChatGPT, where do you think ChatGPT is pulling the information from?
From multiple sites, probably Google, probably from YouTube, everything.
So ChatGPT pulls information a lot from Google reviews,
right.
Reddit, websites, different blogs, different formatting you're writing about, your Instagram, your social media, your LinkedIn and stuff. So there's 5 to 6 sources of information getting pulled into one aggregator. Are you giving them enough information to look up to find you?
Yeah.
And if you don't have simply your own blog, your own website, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Literally, you can just go on, register your own name with a couple of, and then aggregate your all social media in one place. So you're making it easy for the AI to find you.
Right. And that's very interesting, actually, what you just said. And now, if we're going to go to like LinkedIn, because we discussed that LinkedIn is one of the big sites actually for promoting doctors and stuff like that, potentially, and other people too at the same time. How does LinkedIn translate into like speaking opportunities, consulting opportunities, maybe even career opportunities? Because sometimes you get contacted by headhunters for like different jobs. So
I think if I was a physician and I want to build up my LinkedIn, I'll make sure I have to have a really good first impression on the profile. So we're talking about when it's thinking LinkedIn, think of the cover photo you have. Tell me what you're solving. I help patients go through the journey of, thematic care or whatever that is. Like, be very specific on what you're solving with me. And then the next thing in your next to your name, tell me exactly what you do. Don't use the analogies of the different subspecialties you have, because those you have them in the highlights, not on your first 3 liners. Follow me for tips and advice and content around this type of care. And then the second thing is write it on the first person, that your bio. I help patients do this. I work on those kind of research. My interest is that. That bio is so key for it. It pulls information to other places later on. And then there's something called the highlights on Instagram, on LinkedIn, which is like 4 to 5 posts that you could pin on there to be seen by audiences.
By audiences afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to show you my LinkedIn bio. Should we show it to people here? That's my LinkedIn bio here.
Yeah, put it in editing.
Yeah, but you can look at it and tell me what you think.
So
I don't think it's that good.
Here's an example. Let's put it on the camera, right?
Yeah, it's great.
If you don't know Khalil Diab and you see this photo, the background, the beautiful mountains and the water, here you go. Does that tell anything about him being a doctor? So I get it. Like, you could have interest, and I'm sure this is probably Lebanon, or no?
Yeah.
So think how much more would that get you in 3 seconds if this was something around what you work on.
Right.
And then it says Associate Professor of Medicine at Georgetown University. Okay, great. You're a professor, but also what are you teaching? What are you working on?
Right. It's not here. I have it like down. Like you were saying before, I have it, but I have it down.
Yeah, in 3 seconds, you're a professor. I scroll past through you if you commented somewhere.
Yeah.
And the second thing, own the trait. A lot of doctors, I feel sometimes they have a fear of wearing the white coat.
Yeah.
Because they fear they're too formal. It's okay if you wear it, but just make it more, I would say, friendly. And I would say, here's the, where is the next one? I would say I want to see the bio. What do you have all going on? I don't think you have a bio.
It should be there, yeah. Nice. If I don't have a bio, that's even worse.
There you go. I pulled up the profile now. Okay. Oh, about.
Yeah.
Look at the about. Critical care, ultrasonography, interventional. Okay, there's nothing about, hey, I help patients do this, I work on that, here's the interest in my research.
Right.
This is a very kind of like a checklist, tick. And that's not how people connect. On the featured, you want to have something you worked on you're proud of. Tell me like 2, 3 cases you're proud of for the last year that you worked on.
Like maybe like patients who I did procedures on, and let's say last time I had a patient who had like a very deep lesion in the lung that was very hard to get, and I was able to get it using like the robotic bronchoscopy and this CAT scanning and stuff like that. So
what did he have in the lungs?
He had like a lesion and like very deep in his lungs.
What's
like
a lesion means?
That's a good one. Like a mass, which is could be cancer, like cancer.
So okay.
Yeah.
So imagine a hook would be this. Here's how we extracted cancer from a deep lung tissue inside of one of our patients.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let me see how. Versus what you talked, it just went straight above me.
Right, exactly. Because I said lesion, and you're like, what
is
that?
lesion?
Right,
I might know what lesion, but the average person doesn't know what lesion is.
Right. Another one that we do actually, which helps also, like we do valves, put them in the lungs of people to help them breathe better.
Okay,
and
so
I've had patients who are like not breathing at all, and then they're breathing much better.
Imagine your highlights were about, here's how we help our patients breathe better.
Right.
That's just position you as somebody who's close to their patients,
right.
close to the struggles they're having.
So how would you rank my LinkedIn profile from 0 to 10?
Give it like a 5, 6. I mean, I'm just direct, Like but it has the potential because you're doing something.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to have a good link. The worst thing that I always say about LinkedIn, people do one thing and they go write this whole large title. Here's somebody who's you're overdoing things in the real world. You're extracting cancer from somebody's lungs, and you barely have it on there somewhere. And somebody who's not doing cancer, just posting random things and has a following. So I think the recognition, the way I look at it, my obsession in this, I believe that people out there are so talented and they're so smart and they're so gifted, but they're not spending enough time telling their gifts and sharing their gifts with the world because they're busy doing the work. But in reality, spend some time showing the work to other people so you can help more people.
Right, exactly.
And enable more people to do something.
Because showing the work will help more people.
Of course.
I
mean, how many patients would, out of all the doctors that, you might be the most qualified one, but there's someone who's less qualified putting content out there and getting that attention from you.
Right. And I can tell you, I got last year, a couple of years ago actually, because when I was in Lebanon, because I worked in Lebanon for a couple of years, and at LAU they took like a video of me. We were talking about these valves for emphysema patients, start them in Lebanon, so we did a video about it. And then 3 years into it, I'm here, I get a message from a patient in Lebanon. It's like, do you know anybody there who can do these procedures? Because I looked you up online and I saw the video.
Yeah, so from 3 years ago. That's why it's so important for you all as physicians, and that's why I think it's a big niche industry that we can tap into. It's a legacy that's going to build out with you every single year. Something you've done 3 years ago, imagine you did one every year.
Yeah.
How many years ago you were in Lebanon?
It's 5 years now. More than 5 years.
So you've had at least 5 videos. Imagine you did one every month.
Yeah.
That's 12 videos every year.
Exactly.
You become like a content producer.
Right. Exactly. So now as we transition, I'm going to transition before we finish to global health, and because we're both of us come from Lebanon. We're here in the U.S. and all of us. I mean, we still feel certain respect for our country. We miss it. We try to help it out and stuff like that. So how can physicians become thought leaders in, let's say, healthcare policy or global health, and how can diaspora physicians use LinkedIn or other media sites to influence change?
I think the formula is very simple. I think in today's world, it's much more easier than ever to build the brand and the global recognition than it was in the past. Because think of when the world we grew up in, the internet was the early days, it was magazines, it was publications, now it's all digital. So your content that you're building, if it's multilingual and if it's tailored to certain audiences, the internet connected a bunch of interests together.
Right.
So now we have a bunch of people from all over the world liking the same type of game. They all love the red hat. So there's a group called Red Hat that has people from everywhere in the world just because they love red hats.
Right, right.
So the way I look at it is pick the interest you have and understand that industry so well that you become an expert and have a point of view and give me where the industry is heading, especially in terms of global health. Like right now we're talking longevity. Okay, what is that you know about longevity in your local area that could be translated globally? What is some herb or medicine or whatever or treatment or type of activity that you all do that gives traits, if shared with the world, it goes somewhere? I always give the example of matcha. Japanese have been drinking matcha forever. Only the past 5-7 years, everybody's on the matcha hype.
Right, right.
So think of like what could be used in your industry, in your space, in your local community that the world hasn't discovered to start getting recognized on it, and then also pick topics in the industry that are being talked about on a global level and have your point of view on it. So, for example, you can easily right now take the longevity of all the people across the world and analyze it and give me some trends on it. Here's what's going on in this community. Here's one aspect that I can think it contributes to that community. Here's why the death rate is high on this community. Just start becoming more active into any report that comes out. Give me your point of view on it. Because the world is rich with data. What the world is missing, some meaningful insights.
Right.
So become a meaningful insights person and connecting the dots.
Right. And I think a lot of, I see that, and I think a lot of physicians, like you said before, I think some people say, oh, who am I to post this stuff? Like, I don't know much about it. And some people might tell them too, like, I think you should not listen to people. Some people might tell you, yeah, you're not the person to do it. Why do you do this video and stuff like that? So it's like
you and I, those people, if we listen to those people, you'd be where you are today.
No, exactly. No.
I wouldn't. I mean, when I told people I'm going to the US, they're like, oh my God, how are you going to make it? You're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Or when I told them I'm starting a company at 29
like,
years
you're
old.
crazy. Like
you're crazy. And when you told people you're going to start a podcast, how many people told you no one's going to listen?
Yeah, that's what he told me. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But what did I tell you when we met?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, do it. How about
Yeah.
It's a space. It's just the name. It's always easy to shoot at those who are not doing something because you see them.
Right.
It's always easy to shoot at the stars because you see them. But when you shoot somebody at the bottom,
Yeah.
because you're rising. And I
Right.
think to me, it's a big thing that find those circles around you, those who encourage you realistically.
Right.
Because some people would encourage you like, yeah, do a podcast, but okay, if you don't have content, if you're not thinking, if you're not preparing, getting good guests, what's the point? You're just making noise.
Exactly.
So I think find those who are positive critiques or positive feedback, who tell you, okay, here's what could be done, here's what could not done. I like what you did here. Here's what you could do better on there.
And it's a risk. I mean, that's things don't happen without taking some risks. So
Yeah.
that's a very important thing for people to know. So a couple of rapid fire questions for
Yeah.
you. So one post every physician should write this week.
Why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. One mistake to stop immediately.
Tell me something around the medical language, the those terminologies.
So don't use medical terminology.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Use a language that an average 5-year-old would understand, and I would push it a step further. That 5-year-old needs to be able to tell another 5-year-old.
Right.
If a 5-year-old can transmit your message, you're winning.
Good point. One AI tool every doctor should try.
I think as simple as Canva AI is a good one that's so easy for you all to use, or it doesn't have to be technical background, or Perplexity. I love Perplexity too. It gives you a lot of sources and stuff related to it. What's different about Perplexity, if you don't know Perplexity, it gives you the sources of the information that's finding for you. So let's say in your case you want to reference cases and stuff, it actually pulls that information from other medical journals, from other publications, and then you can take the time to make it human.
Right. I agree. Because you always you don't want to use exactly what AI is telling you, but you want to try to take the time to make it human. And probably when you train it, it becomes more human.
Yeah, but it takes time to train,
Exactly.
It's not the first post.
From the get-go. So a physician listening today decides to take this seriously. What's the single most important step that they should take in the next 24 hours other than contact you?
That's a good one. I think for me, it's sit down and write on a piece of paper. If you think right now where you are and where do you want to be in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years even in your case, because you can have that legacy on there.
Yeah.
And who do you want to be known for and for what? So if you write this down, we can decide, okay, you want to be known for a lot more patients, you want to be among the industry experts, because you might just not need to have an Instagram. You might just be going all in on LinkedIn. You might just only literally go all in on YouTube with long form operation surgeries and stuff. And if people look you up, AI will find those operation surveys and narrate the whole thing for them. The way I look at it is decide today what you want to be known for who. Then we can, at phase 2, look, okay, what kind of content we need to be known in that industry. Like I can give you the example of several profiles online that they literally just do long form content and they don't bother with short form content. Long form content, I know, from what I know, every surgery is recorded these days, right? On robotic.
You can, you can record every single surgery now with the robotic surgery.
Yeah, and you probably can get a consent to publish something.
You can.
Okay,
Yes.
so you can literally take that content, narrate over it what you're working on, with your face on there and behind you, and just use that as a long form content and call it a day. AI will find that content if it's indexed correctly, but you have to narrate the language that people are using.
Right.
So those are.
So do it in layman's language, I
Yeah.
guess is what you're saying. So thank you, Roy, for being on the podcast. And so again, tell us your company name, and if people want to contact you,
Yeah.
how do they do that?
So please connect me on our company is called digitalrevamp.com, and find me on LinkedIn, ROYABDO, Roy Abdo, or Instagram, the same thing, ROY.ABDO, or my YouTube channel, also ROY, Roy Abdo, or Digital Revamp. And my email is roy@digitalrevamp.com, as simple as that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Great seeing you. Keep watching. Cool, man.